What's going on? Today I'm going to be breaking down episode 2 of The Rings of Power. If you have missed my breakdown of episode 1, make sure to go check that out first, and then come join me back on this video. And of course, the show opens with 2022's undefeated staring contest champion, Galadriel. And we join Galadriel just after she's jumped ship. But I wouldn't worry, Galadriel, because after the reception to the show, I'm sure most of your fellow castmates have considered doing the same. Being hundreds of miles from shore, Galadriel sure does have a long old swim back to terra firma, and I think her technique needs a little bit of work. I tell you what, it's a good job she's immortal, because we're going to be here for years at this rate. We'll have to come back to that though, because now it's time to move on to my favourite part of the show, the Harfoots. Yay, and they're as dirty as ever, bedraggled and caked in a generous layer of fecal matter, and one of the homeless-looking Harfoots has found a slightly taller homeless-looking Harfoot in a hole, of all places. How careless of him to fall out of the sky like that. You could have done us all a favour and fallen on Elrond, so we don't have to listen to any more pointless political pontificating. I tell you what, I'm using a lot of alliteration these days. I sound like a bloody kid's book. Oh, do you feel that, guys? I feel a homeless jump scare coming on. Ah, yes, our good friend Mr. Barrows has returned, and every time I look at him, he looks more and more like Brian May. Come on, Jonny, think of some Queen Harfoot jokes. There's got to be. How about we will wash you. Or how about, don't wash me now, I'm sorry. So, female Frodo and Sam have thrown yet-to-be-titled homeless man into a wheelbarrow, and they're carting him home in order to, I don't know, probably not wash him and feed him snails or something. And during this journey, they're trying to work out exactly what he is.
Elf, maybe? Wrong ears. And he's not handsome.
I'm sorry, not handsome enough to be an elf? Have you seen the elves so far? Oh, yeah, a bunch of lady killers, these lads. Quick question. Have you ever pushed an unconscious, mostly naked, homeless man down a hill in a medieval wheelbarrow? Oh, you have? Oh, I wouldn't worry then, because female Sam and Frodo have done just that. Those silly little Harfoots. And then, following this little mishap, they decide not to take him back to the village and instead to put him to bed at the bottom of a tree. Ooh, cozy. And up until this point, Nori has been crying in every scene she's been in. I'm not entirely sure why. I can only imagine it's a side effect of not washing your feet for 3 years. But then she begins to explain to female Sam about how it's her destiny to find the man who fell from the sky, about how it was her destiny to find him, and how this is important to her because you know how the famous saying goes, if you can't maintain your own personal hygiene, might as well be a narcissist, or words to that effect. And for those who didn't pick up on it, the title scene is meant to resemble whenever you put like a granular substance, whether it be sand or salt, whenever you put a granular substance on top of a sheet of metal and then send frequencies through that metal, whatever you've placed on top of this sheet will start to create like these sort of mathematical shapes due to the frequencies being sent through the sheet, which is, I mean, it's a weird and quite a niche little reference, but I mean, it's kind of cool, I guess. I mean, it's usually a practical experiment, but here it's done through CG. But you know, when it creates different patterns, like the two trees and stuff. I mean, I don't know what significance that holds just yet, but I mean, it was alright. It was kind of cool, I guess. And now we're back with Arondir and Mother of the Year Bronwyn, who I actually forgot to mention this in the last episode, literally abandoned her son. Without saying a single word. No goodbyes, no nothing. Arondir squeezed a cow and she was like, well, I guess we better go on an adventure without telling my son then. I'ma head out. So they're both searching through this decimated town, and there's a scene where Arondir opens the door to this house and we see the shot from the back of the house because the entire back of the house is missing. And he still goes through the front door. Like, I think, to be honest, at this point, mate, I think general etiquette is thrown out of the window. You could have just peeked round the side, but you had to be like, no, knock, 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 can I come in? And then back to the elves, and as we get the sweeping opening scene of Eregion, the music in the background is subtly hinting to the music from the prologue of the Fellowship. I think it's just known as the One Ring to Rule Them All piece. But you know, they're using very similar strings in a very similar interval, and I was like, oh, that's a nice little reference. I get that. And then I remembered I was watching Rings of Power, and I was like, ah. And we're back with Rivendell Vice. And might I say, Celebrimbor, what a lovely muumuu you're wearing. Very fetching. And as it turns out, Captain MooMoo wants to build a forge, and he's going to need some cheap labour. So off we go to Mexico. I mean, Khazad-dûm. Khazad-dûm. Sorry. And you know, I'm a reasonable guy. I'll give props where it's due. I think they did a good job with Khazad-dûm. It's a nice blend of stages, miniatures, and CG. And I think it looks nice. It's not as nice as Celebrimbor's muumuu for sure, but you know, it's nice. Okay, I've just got to the part where we're back with Nori and the homeless guy. And I was joking earlier about how she's going to not wash him and feed him snails. And that's literally what she does. She brings him a bunch of snails. I swear, I have not seen this before. This is my first time watching it. And sure enough, she's just trying to feed him snails. Oh yeah, Galadriel. I almost forgot she was in this episode. So she comes across these other people who are also adrift at sea. They're sort of floating upon bits of driftwood and parts of their ship that they've kind of stuck together because a sea monster has destroyed their ship. And when the sea monster returns, one of the castaways does what I think we all would have done if we were in that situation with Galadriel.
You'll let it right to us!
Fortunately for Galadriel, all of these bigots upon this raft are immediately killed to death by the sea monster. All but Halbrand, who, for whatever reason, chooses to let Galadriel join him on board the SS Yikes. And now we're back with Elrond, who obviously grew tired of his Who's Got the Biggest Wang competition with Durin, and instead he's gone to meet his family, and all of a sudden, it's become an episode of the Flintstones.
Flintstones! Hey, Flintstones! I told you to stay out of my
Isn't that just a fine how do you yabba dabba do? Okay, I need to stop writing jokes immediately. And it wouldn't be an episode of the Flintstones, I mean the Rings of Power, without a liberal seasoning of cringeworthy dialogue.
Some called him a fool for believing it would grow in such darkness.
Where there is love, it is never truly dark.
Where there is love, it is never truly dark, eh? Well, if that's the case, Elrond, why don't you lock yourself in a cupboard with your missus and tell me if you can tell your balls from your toes.
Tell me about your king's proposal so I can decide whether to present it to my father or toss it in the nearest slag pit.
Now, by slag pit, I'm sure you probably mean, you know, like slates and that kind of stuff, but, you know, just out of curiosity, you don't have a giant hole full of promiscuous women, do you? Just asking for a friend. And we're back with Steamboat Willie and Guinea Pig Reel's back in full force.
I have pursued this foe since before the first sunrise bloodied the sky, even to speak the names of those they've taken from me. So letting it lie is not an option.
And being the elven Karen that she is, Galadriel demands that the man who literally just saved her life take her to see the manager immediately. Okay, not the manager, but she demands that he takes her to the last place where orcs were spotted, and he simply says, no. And the conversation ends there. But oh no, because Steamboat Willie and Guinea Pig Reel are caught in a storm and Galadriel is thrown overboard. And as she is, she's kind of attached to like parts of the raft, so she begins to sink. And it's obviously written that at this point, this is where the audience is supposed to be going, no, no, not Galadriel, no. I was just sat there like, drown the witch, drown the witch, drown the witch. Let her sink to the bottom of the dark, briny blue. And now Gandalf, who isn't Gandalf, but we all know it's Gandalf, but some don't think it's Gandalf, but it's heavily debated whether it is Gandalf, but I think it might be Gandalf, but he is credited as the Stranger at the moment, but I believe him to be Gandalf. Now, apart from looking like a young Gandalf, I think he might be Gandalf because, like, towards the end of the episode, and this is, I might be wrong, this is just speculation, but he's kind of like, he's whispering to the fireflies and doing this kind of thing, and it is somewhat reminiscent of when Gandalf is stuck on the top of Orthanc and he's whispering to the moth, but like I say, purely speculation at this point. You might be thinking, oh, you don't seem terribly excited that one of the most beloved Lord of the Rings characters might be coming to Rings of Power, but that's just it. It's coming to Rings of Power, so it's kind of like, I'd rather not. And then the closing scene, and great news because Steamboat Willie and Guinea Pig Reel are saved. A boat has found them whilst they were adrift at sea, and Galadriel just goes straight back to sleep. as always, a big shout out to the people who choose to help my channel behind the scenes. We have the tier 2 patrons, we have Steve the Goat, and we're welcoming Saeed, who's new to the Patreon. Welcome, people, you are the big Giga Chads. And then we have the tier 1 patrons, we've got Abe Froman, Sammy Moraine, Brennis, Damon Spike, Chloe Bond, Lord Claret, Pozobon, and Bread Leafers. And then we have the channel members. We have Kuno Sacco, and we're also welcoming Yarnwich. Welcome one and all to the channel. Again, as always, thank you so much for supporting me behind the scenes. You've really helped me this month, actually. So yeah, I'm genuinely really thankful for that. And there we go. What did you think of episode 2? Let me know down in the comments, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future breakdowns that I'll be doing. But until then, take care of yourselves, guys, and I'll see you real soon. Help your boy out. Drop a like. Thank you. You haven't liked it yet. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'll go now.